Next in our Hack the Box series, we're going to try a medium challenge named Heartbreaker. This one is around email forensics and it has a disk image for us to download, so we've gone ahead and done that. Once we downloaded this file, we can see here we've got a host name, we then have a C drive, and then we have certain things. Now this is typical of like a CAPE type extraction where it only gets specific folders which are going to be useful, which does make it a little bit easier for us. So I dug through the files which were being provided in this challenge, and one thing that's really stuck out was an OST file. Now an OST file is an offline file, especially the cache of emails, so that when you're disconnected from your Exchange server, you've got this offline version. It's slightly different to a PST file. Our PST files are usually deliberate and they're kind of a separate folder within Outlook itself, whereas an OST file is transparent to the user. This just allows it to view the emails while they're not connected, like I said, to the Exchange server. So we're going to have a dig through this and see if we can answer some of these questions. I've gone ahead and run up Autopsy and I've told it to go and look for email communications. Now, Autopsy, if you don't know, is a free forensics tool. It's really simple to set up. You just download it, run it, go through a couple of quick settings. And all I did in this case was added a data source, generate new hostname based off source data. And all I've done is gone for the logical files here. Next, pressed add, browse to the folder I wanted, press select, and then just gone through after that. So looking inside of Autopsy, we can see a particularly suspicious email here. The problem is that we need to be able to pull out a URL from this email. And the way it is right now is simply just a cache. So we're going to try and change it into a PST file from an OST file, which we'll go through in a minute. But first off, we need to grab the email address and make sure we've actually got the right email. I think we have, because there's this bit where it says accessible here at the bottom. That tells me that is going to be the hyperlink that we're looking for. And there are other ways to find this hyperlink, but we're going to try and do this properly. What we're going to do is move over to the accounts and find the email address, and then we're going to copy it from here, paste in the email, take out the white space, and we have the correct email. I've just realized I didn't actually mention the attachments to you, so you can see here there's a field has attachment, and this is yes. And if we look at the attachments, we expand out this bit, we say for your eyes only.tiff. For the web downloads, we have this superstar member card tiff.exe, which looks very suspicious. It's also going to an IP address on a specific port. Again, very suspicious. Double file extension, it's not good. So this is probably going to be the URL we're looking for and the IP address we're looking for the next question. But we're going to see if we can find it the way the author intended. So I've downloaded a tool called OST2PST. This is from GitHub. You can Google this quite easily. Here we can see the repo with MK author. I don't know how you pronounce that, but you know, this guy, you can just download this. You need to set up Java on your machine, and then once you've done that, you can run this batch file. I'm giving it the input, giving it the output. Let's see if this works. It did not work. This is Outlook 2013 apparently, so do you know what, we're just going to go ahead and cheese it. We can get the answers we need from other forensic artifacts, which again, you don't always have to follow exactly what it is that the CTF is telling you. Sometimes there are other ways of doing it. So we've got this web downloads right here. All right, remember folks, Autopsy is free, so you get what you pay for. Let me just quickly tidy this up. So there you go, we have that. We don't need that bit on the end. So that gives us the IP address, the port, file name, .exe. So submit that and we get a winner. So this question, where did they get the AWS credentials from, feels like you'd be looking for a config file or something like that, but actually we're just looking at users being users. So if we look at the emails again, and this time into the drafts folder, which we have right here, we can see we've got an access ID, secret access. Now all of this is stored within that OST file, which we've been looking at already. So I hazard a guess that the answer is quite simply .ost. And yeah, there we go. So next question is provide the actual IAM credentials of the victim found within the artifact. So let's grab those, copy pasta, and then chuck those in. Probably have to change that comma to a colon by the look of this. And there we go. Simple as that. So when was a malicious binary activated on the victim's workstation is an odd way of phrasing this. I would have said when was it executed, when was it run. That's what I assume they're going for rather than downloaded, but we'll go and have a look. So we'll try prefetch, see if that tells us. So we found this in the prefetch data, which shows us 10:45:02. Now the problem with prefetch files is they're written 10 seconds after the program is executed. So if this one is incorrect, we may need to minus 10 seconds and see if that gives us a correct time. And there we go, that is the correct answer. So next up, following the download and execution of the binary, so that gives us a timestamp. The victim attempted to search for specific keywords on the internet. What were those keywords? Well, funnily enough, Autopsy has given us some keywords. You can see here web search. So we have Superstar Cafe membership. That does seem to fit the field, so let's grab that one. It's not going to let me copy it. What a dick. And copy the entire thing again. Superstar Cafe membership, which we got from our web search, which Autopsy automatically got for us, and that is a correct answer. Now we're looking for a sent email, which was sent by the malicious binary apparently. So let's go back into the emails and have a look, see if there's a sent item with an identical email in it. As we go back into the OST file, we can see the email right here from Ash Williams. As you see, the email 2 is empty. But if we click on headers, you can see this was sent as a BCC to a lot of people. Go into the header of the email itself. We can look at the date here. We see it's 18:47:51, but that's a +8 time zone. So if we take away 8 hours, we're stuck with 10:47:51. So let's drop that in. There we go. That is the answer. Next question is, how many recipients were targeted by the distribution of said email excluding the victim's email account? Let's grab these BCCs and then we will see how many there are. Just use Notepad++. 58. There we go. 58. And all it took was a find and replace and then some manual deleting because I hate my life. Next question is, which legitimate program was utilized to obtain details regarding the domain controller? And if we look through the prefetch on here, come on, we have membercard.tiff, DLL host, and then immediately nltest.exe. Now, nltest is actually used to query domain controllers. That's its job. We also have Wimic running after that, which could be used, but I would put money on this being nltest. nltest.exe, let's see. Yep, as expected. That is one of the lolbins living off the land binaries that you can use for these types of things for reconnaissance, so it makes sense that that was on there. Specify the domain that was used for download for exfiltration was a real pain in the ass. I thought this might be zone identifier information for something like WinSCP, which is in the public folder, maybe in the MFT, something about that, but there wasn't. The only zone identifier fields for the MFT was for the malware, which you already know about. So this basically became a case of trying to poke around the image, trying to find somewhere where network data would be stored, and it's not usually stored on the host. So if we had a memory dump, we could use the DNS resolver cache which sits in there. Maybe that would have been helpful. We could have tried to see if there's any netstat data that had been left over. But when you're talking about a dead disk image, which is what we've got here, it's a lot more difficult. So the only thing which really stood out to me for being a bit different was the sysmon event log. Now this one isn't on by default, so I extracted this and had a look, because when you try and read it in here, it's garbage. It truncates it. You can't see the whole thing. Simply did was I exported that, and then I fired up another one of the Eric Zimmerman tools, which is evtxecmd.exe, and then I pointed it at the sysmon, as you can see here. Going to the sysmon.evtx, told it to dump it out here, and then I just simply opened that up in Timeline Explorer, filtered Superstar member card up here and that one, and then also one of these other columns I filtered for DNS. So I'm looking for DNS queries. Now normally, like I say, this isn't stored on the host, so this is something that was deliberately set up for this challenge. When we do this, we now see a query name of us.softradar. So this is most likely going to be our answer. Let's go and put that in and find out. There we go, soft radar. I was spelling it trader. That is one of the more irritating questions, a bit of esoteric question. The fact that sysmon was on there was good, but like I say, it's not the standard setup. Yeah, not the best question in the world. There was a lot of swearing off camera for that one. But no, I'm going to move on to the next task now. And for the next question, I actually know the answer to this one, although I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm going to go find it. But this is where WinSCP was stored. So this was in the public folder, like I say, help desk tools. There we go. So that's the name that the TA gave it to try and hide it. And this isn't uncommon for threat actors to do. They regularly do try and hide things in places to make them look legitimate. They'll either call things at 1.exe if they're being lazy, or they'll put them into the public folder, or they'll put them into the perflogs folder on the root of the C drive. Things like that to try and hide them, make it so that you just don't look for them, or if you do see them, you think they're legitimate. Under which MITRE attack technique does the action described in question 11 fall under? Hiding shit. Is that a MITRE thing? I don't know. Let's go and have a look. This is one of those questions where who fucking cares? It's like, do you know the MITRE attack technique that this falls under? Yeah, I do now. I went to look for it. Who cares? And yeah, masquerading. There you go. I went and Googled it and I found it. Who the hell cares? So, fun fact, it's actually got the technique of masquerading in here. I could have just grabbed that. Task number 13 is, can you determine the minimum number of files that are compressed before they were extracted? Now, I can't specifically say that these were definitely compressed, but I can say that they were written into a staging folder. What I've done, gone back onto this magical sysmon event file, is I've said anything with the word public files. Now, I found this by accident. I was looking around at the public folder and seeing what was going on in there, and I spotted these public files. It's not really referenced in Autopsy too much, so when I did a search for it in here, there is a reference to public files here, but it's just one reference. It's hardly anything, but it still was enough just to kind of go, well, maybe that's something. So dug through here, did a bit of a Hail Mary, and what I've done is I've excluded the .zip, because that will be zip file. That's where they're going to exfiltrate things from. And you can see the WinSCP is the one that they've already put in there. That's where they downloaded their tools from. And this WBWS01.zip, that will be the exfiltration. So if I say do not include any .zip files, That gives us, as you can see at the bottom here, a total of 28 lines. We can automatically exclude this top line because that one is the folder, so we don't really get that one. This OST, I'm not sure if they're going to exfiltrate the OST. If they are, there's going to be 27, if not 26. And I would list all of these in a report to the customer to say, look, these are all the files that are present. At this stage, I can't promise you that these are written to a zip file. These were all put into the zip file because I don't have that evidence in front of me. I'd really like to see a command line for that or some other type of data. Right now, this is what we've got. Let's try 27 to begin with and see if that works. If we take away the OST file, that leaves us with 26. Let's see if that's correct. There we go. So the OST file wasn't part of the exfiltration. That was part of the initial compromise. So that makes sense. It wouldn't take the thing they've already gotten, especially when you see you've got the contacts in here as spotted. So you get wet contacts.csv, and they've already sent an email from that email address. So the OST file was a bit of a weird outlier for that one. I would still say they might have taken it, just to be on the safe side. The final question, to exfiltrate data from the victim's workstation, the binary executed the command. Can you provide the complete command used for this action? No. I'll have a look. What I simply did was change, once again, using this magical sysmon event log. I changed the filters to be, well, I basically got rid of some of the spam, and I got myself down to around about the right level with entry number 5400. I knew this was around about the right place after all of those files were written from the previous question. And I just simply had a look through, and I saw this one, parent command line, C users help desk win SCP, script equals, and I was like, that looks a lot like what I'm looking for. So you double click on that, we can copy this entire thing back to there, Control C, we'll drop this into here. There we go. That's that one completed. Now, there was a lot of ex-machina with that one, just using the sysmon event log, which it felt cheap. It was like, here, go read this sysmon event log and answer all these questions. I didn't like that way of doing things. If it wasn't for that sysmon directory, that sysmon event log, we wouldn't have gotten any of those answers because they just don't exist on disk, or some of them don't exist on disk, and they certainly didn't exist in that capture that was grabbed beforehand. So yeah, not amazing. All right, thanks for watching. Do the usual YouTube things, like, dislike, just make sure you subscribe because, you know, some of us got bills to pay.